Guatemala is, according to the World Bank, one of the poorest and most unequal countries in Latin America. And a group that particularly feels that burden of inequality is people with disabilities who are routinely victims of discrimination and exclusion. And about 10 to 12% of the population has a disability, and one of the largest categories of disability is mobility impairment. So that's people who can't walk or who need a lot of help to get around.
Desde que pues ese día fui a ayudar a un don a bajar.
What happened that day is, I went to help a guy harvest some avocados from a tall tree. But unfortunately, just as I was cutting the last avocados, the branch I was standing on broke away, and I fell from a height of about 25 feet. I fell on my back and broke my C7 vertebrae. It was a huge shock, not just for me, but also for my family, my parents, my siblings, my wife and kids. It was really tough. It's taken quite a while for my family to come to terms with it. And for me too, because like everything was over for me after that. Because losing the use of your legs is a hard blow. And thinking of my children and my wife, how was I going to feed them and provide for the daily household costs? Since basically, I was the one who brought home all the money. I loved playing football, playing with my kids, going out with them. That's life in the villages. You go into the mountains to gather firewood, to work in the cornfields with your hoe. Those are the things people do. But now, as for me, I'm just sitting on the porch of my house, watching my neighbors and friends go off to work in their fields. And sometimes I think about all the things they're going off to do, the same things I used to do, but can't anymore.
In Guatemala, losing one's mobility is a life-changing experience. More than 3 out of 5 disabled people in the country lack access to wheelchairs, particularly in rural areas. And for those who do have them, most are insufficient to handle the cobblestone streets, uneven sidewalks, and dirt terrain. Being a gunshot victim is one of the most common causes of physical immobility in Guatemala. Manuel Chamale was shot while working as a bus driver's assistant at the age of 14. It led to a dramatic change in his life.
Bueno, ese día me levanté yo muy temprano, como todos los días, a trabajar a las 5 de la mañana. Recuerdo que ese día,
on that day, I got up very early, like every day, going to work at 5 a.m. I remember the bus was parked at a gas station. Me and the driver, we were just pausing for a little break. He was reading the newspaper, and at that moment, someone gets on the bus and shoots the driver. The driver was reading his newspaper, and he just falls face forward. His face hits, and he's immediately dead. It happened very fast. I didn't know how to react. I was just sitting there, and a bullet entered here, and at that moment, I could no longer feel my body. My whole body felt floppy, like everything had fallen asleep. And I fell back against the bus seat. And all I did was look down and see the blood coming out. I watched the blood flowing out like it was a stream or a river. And I remember at that moment, I thought I was going to die right there.
For Manuel, after spending 4 days in the hospital, going home proved challenging.
The house where I live, we don't own it, we rent. And it was not accessible for a person with a disability. It was built for people who could walk. There were stairs, and no one had contemplated a person with a disability. I remember that when I arrived home from the hospital, they pulled me out of the taxi, but there was no way to transport me into my house. So they wrapped me in a sheet, and 5 or 6 people between them hauled me into the house. And the door into the house was so narrow, at first they couldn't fit through. So they had to push and use force and eventually got me inside. But the hallway was also tiny, and it was really a struggle to get me into the room where I was going to be.
Car accidents are another leading cause of mobile disability in Guatemala. One accident had a dramatic impact on Ingrid Matsir's life as well.
Cuando tenía 17 años, sufrí un accidente automovilístico.
When I was 17, I was in a car accident and broke my back and couldn't walk anymore. I was at home for 13 years. The injury was 15 years ago, but for 13 years, sadness, regret, and depression invaded my life, and I didn't want to do anything. I felt like my life was over and that I was no longer useful for anything.
Sylvia Pablo was born with spina bifida. This disability meant she was unable to attend school until she was 17 years old. Getting a wheelchair changed her life.